Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, everyone. So, Darren, what do you mean this live stream is just a formality? What are you talking about? What are you guys talking about over on Discord? I know what you're trying to do, trying to get me to join you, but so far I have resisted, or have I? Maybe I'm one of those members that you don't recognize. Anyway, apologize for the slight tardiness getting here. I did what I shouldn't do. I was having that same technological issue I was having yesterday and decided to just restart the computer, like right before I went live. It's pretty amazing these days that you can do that and get away with it. And I would have gotten away with it, except my Bible program I've narrowed it down to that's the glitch. So restarting the whole computer didn't help, and restarting that Bible program didn't help. So anyway, I think we're going fine. But what it didn't do was pull up all of my preset things. So I don't think we're going to go all over the place today. But if we do, I'll have to do a little typing. Anyway, good to see you all. We are in Matthew chapter 12. And we have been following as Jesus just lets the Pharisees and the scribes have it. He is exposing their hypocrisy, their self-righteousness, their great wickedness. He's calling them out left and right. And he's got more of that today as they try to set him up. So chapter 12, verse 38 says, hey, it worked that time. Okay. Then certain of the scribes and Pharisees answered, saying, Teacher, we will to see a sign from you. We want to see a sign from you. Now, just how absurdly and obviously stupid are these Pharisees? I mean, it's so obvious what they're doing, calling him teacher here, when they have just claimed. Now, this is not exactly the same setting as the other, but this was consistent with everything they've been doing, like charging him with casting out demons by Satan's power, not God's. And now they're going to call him teacher. And they want to see a sign from him. Does that strike any of you odd? Something seem out of place for the scribes and Pharisees to be asking Jesus for a sign? What more do they want him to do? You see my point? He goes into towns. He heals those who are sick. He gives sight to men who were born blind. He gives the ability to hear to people who were deaf. He tells the lame to get up and walk, and they do. He finds people who are controlled by demons, influenced by demons, demonized, as we say, and he sends the demons off, and the person is now free of that oppression. What more would they want him to do? Which raises the question, why do they want him to do a sign now? Well, we're not told explicitly. So doing a little pondering, what seems likely to me is they are trying to control him, and they are prepared to lie to the people about whatever sign he performs. So if he does something wonderful, they'll say, again, he's doing this by the power of Satan. Maybe he won't be able to do a sign this time, and they can call him out on that. But it seems like they're trying to trap him, similar to what he already accused them of back in chapter 11. He said, to what will I liken this generation? It is like little children in marketplaces sitting and calling to others, saying, we piped to you and you did not dance. We lamented to you, and you did not strike the breast. For John came neither eating nor drinking, and they say he has a demon. The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say, behold, a man, a glutton, a wine drinker, and a friend of tax collectors and sinners. So they want Jesus to do their bidding. So give us a sign. You know, we're calling the shots here. We're going to play the music and you dance to our tune kind of thing. And Jesus says, no, I won't. I'm not playing your games. I'm not submitting to your desires. In fact, not just saying no, he says, a generation evil and adulterous seeks a sign. Notice how he describes this generation. By the way, you should trace this this term generation through the Gospels, just through Matthew, for instance. He uses it regularly to talk about, you know, the Jews of his day, and it will help you see when you get to Matthew 24, when it says all these things will come upon this generation. He's been using that terminology to describe them again and again. How long have I been with this generation? How long will I put up with this generation? To what shall I compare this generation? And that's what I just quoted in Matthew 11. And so on. This generation is evil and adulterous. Now, when you hear Jesus referring to the Jews as evil and adulterous, what do you think of? That's the same language God used through the prophets to rebuke and condemn the Jews of their day, hundreds of years prior to this. He repeatedly called them wicked. Sometimes he compared them to Sodom and Gomorrah. And he said, you are committing adultery, in particular with their idolatry. God considered their idolatry adultery against him because he was their husband, so to speak, and they were chasing after other gods, like a wife chasing after other husbands or other men. You are an evil and adulterous generation. Now, they're not out there actually bowing down before idols in the first century, in Jesus' time, but they were not faithful to God. Had they been faithful to God, they would have received the Messiah, who's here doing these amazing things right before them. So he says, a generation evil and adulterous seeks a sign. A sign will not be given to it except the sign of Jonah the prophet. Okay, again, that raises the question in our minds, or it should, what sign did Jonah do? Was Jonah known for signs? Did he go here and there doing miracles like Elijah, for instance? No. Jesus is not here referring to something that Jonah did as part of his prophetic ministry, but Jonah himself is the sign that that Jesus is going to give to the scribes and Pharisees. You tracking with that? You want a sign, scribes and Pharisees? You are an evil, adulterous generation. No, I'm not going to give you a sign, except this one. What is it? For as Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights, so the Son of Man will be in the heart of the earth 3 days and 3 nights. Heart of the earth. This is a statement indicating he's going to die. But by saying for 3 days and 3 nights, that signifies an end to his death. You see that? If he just said the Son of Man will be in the heart of the earth, that would just simply be saying I'm going to die. But by saying 3 days and 3 nights, saying there will be an end to my death. And he says the Son of Man will do this. If you go back to the passage that is most salient for the Son of Man, Daniel 7, he ascends on the clouds to the Ancient of Days to receive his kingdom. There's nothing there about him dying. So this is new information for these scribes and Pharisees. So what's he saying here? Here's the sign. The only sign you all are going to be given is I'm going to be dead for 3 days and nights. That's it. And of course, we know how this goes. All of that comes to pass. But when he comes out of the earth in the resurrection, they, like all the other signs, were blind. They ignored the sign. In fact, they asked, they try to pay off the guards to say, hey, look, when people ask about this, tell them the disciples came and stole his body away. Anything to dismiss the truth of the resurrection. And Jesus told them ahead of time, this is exactly what you're going to see, and they're not going to accept it. Does that make sense? Everybody understanding what's going on here? Sana says, verses 43 to 45 have me scratching my head. Well, we'll look at that in a moment. By the way, talking with my husband last night about yesterday's passage, and I'm now on board with what you said yesterday. Oh, cool. Hello from Romania. Claudiu. Sorry, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that. I apologize. Mike says, not one of these men of this evil generation shall see the good land that I swore to give to your fathers. Yeah, same kind of language, same kind of warning, isn't it? Yeah, very good. Darren says, was Jonah dead for 3 days? Depends on how you read it, I suppose. Yeah, in my opinion, as you know, Darren, a lot of the time language is imprecise for our ears. We don't talk this way. It's kind of like I have a friend who, if we say, "Hey, let's get together tomorrow for something," say 6 p.m. And when he's leaving, he'll say, "All right, see you tomorrow afternoon." Well, where I come from, afternoon is not 6 p.m. That's evening. Afternoon is 3 p.m. That kind of thing. But his argument is, well, it is afternoon, right? Well, a similar kind of thing. It seems like any part of a day could be considered a day and a night for Jewish literature. But yeah, admittedly, there's some imprecision there for our ears. All right, so let's go on. Then Jesus says, men of Nineveh will stand up in the judgment with this generation and will condemn it. Why? For they converted at the preaching or the proclamation of Jonah, and behold, one greater than Jonah is here. So he brings up Jonah, and of course Jonah's prophesying was toward Nineveh, a nation notorious for their vile wickedness and their violence, and they had already, brought great distress and havoc to the northern kingdom. And Jonah didn't want to go preach to them because he was afraid they would repent, and he didn't want God to forgive them. And that's when he gets put in the belly of the fish for 3 days, and then he goes and preaches, and sure enough, the Ninevites stop the wickedness they are doing there. So here's this sort of epitome of a wicked, violent nation. And Jesus says they will stand up in the judgment and condemn the generation of the Pharisees and scribes. So the Jews, the leaders to whom Jesus is speaking, are less righteous than the Ninevites, who were wicked pagans. Now, this is the passage that I mentioned last week, I believe it was, that causes me to reconsider this judgment when he's talking about Chorazin and Bethsaida and Capernaum, and how they are more wicked than Sodom, for instance, and Tyre and Sidon, and the day of judgment there. And at the time when I was teaching through that, I was trying to make the case the day of judgment is the coming destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD. But this language is very similar and the point is very similar. So I'm retracting that. And now I think that judgment in chapter 11 was the post-death judgment, the great white throne judgment kind of thing. Or depending on, as we talked about in Revelation, this could be the first judgment in the first century. Either way, I think this is a statement saying when this generation is judged in their final judgment, whenever that takes place, they're going to find they are judged more harshly and severely by God than the Ninevites. Why? Because the Ninevites at least stopped doing what they were doing when Jonah preached to them. The Pharisees are not repenting. They are not stopping their wickedness. They're not believing Jesus, even though he is greater than Jonah. He's the Son of Man. Jesus is the Son of Man, the Messiah, the King, the Son of David, the Anointed One, all of those. He's the Christ. The Pharisees and the scribes don't believe him, and they are not repenting at his preaching. Therefore, from that perspective, the ancient Ninevites are more righteous than the Jews and will rise up in the judgment and condemn them. Now, I think this is hyperbole. I don't think this is a way of saying that somehow the Ninevites have an actual role in the judgment, but it is a poignant point he's making, and it would have made them very upset to say the Ninevites will rise up and have a claim over you that they're better than you, more righteous than you, scribes and Pharisees. Does that make sense? He gives another one. A queen of the south shall rise up in the judgment with this generation and will condemn it, for she came from the ends of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon, and behold, one greater than Solomon is here. If you read that passage in the Old Testament, in 1 Kings, the Queen of Sheba, I think it is, travels far because she had heard of Solomon, the king of Jerusalem, heard of his wisdom, and she came to learn from him. And Jesus is saying, I am greater than Solomon, and you don't care what I have to say. You just have to go a mile to hear the wisdom of someone far greater than Solomon, and you don't care what I have to teach you. You call me teacher, but you don't listen to anything that I say. So this pagan queen will stand up in the judgment and say, look, I'm more righteous than you, scribes and Pharisees, because I traveled far to listen to Solomon, and you had the Son of Man right there in your presence, and you rejected him. You see the point? So he is exposing the wickedness of the scribes and Pharisees, and in several different ways saying, you're evil, you're adulterous, you're perverse, I'm not going to cower to your demands, and on Judgment Day you will find that you are judged as far more wicked than even these pagans who worshiped other gods. Everybody track with that? It's pretty simple, right? William says, 3 days and 3 nights affirms the truth of Jonah's story and establishes the truth of death and resurrection on the third day or after 3 days. This doesn't necessarily require 72 hours in the tomb, which, agreed. And that's an important point. Jesus here is treating Jonah being in that fish, whale, whatever you want to call it, sea monster, sometimes translated, is historical reality. So don't let the skeptics talk you out of believing that story. All right, then he says, and when the unclean spirit may go forth from a man, it walks through dry places seeking rest and does not find. Then it says, I will return to my house from where I came forth, and having come, it finds it unoccupied, swept, and adorned. Then it goes and takes with itself 7 other spirits more evil than itself, and having gone in, they dwell there, and the last of that man becomes worse than the first. so it will be in this way, in this manner, it will be also to this evil generation. All right, so this is a sort of standard Second Temple view of demons, that if they left a body, they went trying to find some place, usually in the wilderness, the desert, trying to find a place of rest and another body to occupy, kind of thing. And so Jesus is picking up on that view and saying, this is what the current generation, the first century generation of the Jews is like. Like an unclean spirit goes out of a man, it goes searching around, and then it decides to go back to the man that it left. And there's been some changes made. The man has gotten his life back together because he's no longer, influenced, afflicted by this spirit. But the demon, in the meantime, has gone and found 7 others more evil than itself, and they pile on the man, and his situation becomes far worse, and he does far more wicked things with the 7 of them afflicting him than he did when it was just 1. That's what I think is going on here. And Jesus says, so it will be for this generation. So the way that plays out, as I see it, is these men are corrupt to the core. They're blinded by their jealousy and by their greed and their hunger for power. Jesus is their threat, their biggest threat, because he is claiming to be the Son of Man, and he is performing miracles to add credibility to his claim. And multitudes are following after him, believing that he is the Son of Man, the Messiah, the Christ, the Son of David. And he is dislodging the Pharisees and scribes from their positions of power. So they are like a demonized man. They are going to kill Jesus. And then 7 more demons are going to come, and it's going to be even worse. They're going to kill Jesus' followers. And we see this played out through the book of Acts, right? And then come to 70 AD. If you read Josephus' account of what happened there, the civil war, the infighting, the just heinous and vile murder, killing, eating their own babies, betrayals, all of that happens in Jerusalem among the Jews with each other. I've said this before, and it's almost as if, it's not quite like this, but it's almost as if, Titus, the Roman general, could just sit and watch as the Jews devour themselves. He lays siege and just lets them kill each other in such wicked ways. So that's what I think he's getting at. These men are awful and evil, and it's going to go from bad to worse. Does that make sense, Son? Does that help at all? And does anybody else have a different perspective here? Scott says Revelation 9 may be the fulfillment. Jesus cast out the demons in the land in 70 AD. He unleashed them in Jerusalem. The 5th trumpet, the falling, he opened the pit and he come. Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah, I remember. I don't think we compared this story in when we were doing our study of Revelation. But we did talk about that being 70 AD time frame. So yeah, interesting tie-in. Could be. So here again, as I told you on day 1 when we started Matthew, the 2 major themes repeated is the kingdom is here and the Pharisees and the scribes are wicked, and he is condemning them at every turn, and that's what we're seeing. And Jesus is letting them have it. And he will provoke them to seek his execution, which will be their final undoing. Because then he will come in his wrath, the wrath of the Lamb, as Revelation speaks of, and he will take them down. Yeah, very good. All right, we will leave it there for today. Enjoy your discussion over on Discord. We will see you all tomorrow. Grace and peace to you.